My wife abandoned me with his sick dog while I was hospitalized for a heart attack. The nurse said, "Your wife dropped off a note." It read, "You're too weak to be a man." Her lover showed up with a leash and smirked. "You can keep our mistake." I just smiled and said, "Good. I'm keeping the house too." He turned pale as security escorted him out. "My name's Dale, and I'm 54 years old. I've lived in Rochester, New York my whole life. Born, raised, and probably gonna die here. I've always been a simple guy. I work hard, keep to myself mostly, and I don't go looking for trouble. I've been working maintenance at a high school on the west side of town for almost 28 years. That job's put food on my table, paid the mortgage, and helped me live a comfortable, if not exciting, life. I thought I was settled. I thought everything was solid. I was married for 22 years. Her name was Janelle. She worked part-time as an accountant for a small firm. Nothing flashy. Our life wasn't fireworks and champagne, but we had a rhythm. You know? Wake up early, coffee in the kitchen, drive into work. She'd call me around lunch just to check in. I'd usually be fixing a busted HVAC or patching up a wall some kid punched out. We'd eat dinner around 6, sometimes homemade, sometimes just takeout. Then we'd settle in for some TV. Old reruns, mostly. Frasier was our favorite. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Or at least that's what I thought. I'll tell you exactly when everything started to unravel. October 12th. A Thursday. It was cold, one of those early fall days that feels more like winter's knocking at the door. I remember standing in the school's boiler room, trying to fix a corroded pipe under one of the cafeteria sinks. I'd been feeling off for a couple days, tight chest, shortness of breath. I figured I was just pushing myself too hard. I wasn't sleeping well. Heartburn maybe. I was crouched down, wrench in hand, when my vision went white. Just like that. No warning. I came to in the back of an ambulance with a woman asking me if I knew where I was. My chest felt like someone parked a truck on it. They told me I'd had a minor heart attack. Could have been worse, but it wasn't nothing. They wheeled me into Strong Memorial and hooked me up to what felt like a dozen machines. Nurses in and out, beeping everywhere. First night was a blur. Janelle came by the next morning. She had my slippers and a hoodie I always wear around the house. Kissed me on the forehead. Asked if I needed anything. I told her to bring Rufus, our dog, if she could. He's an older beagle mix, kind of gimpy in the back legs, but sweet as sugar. She smiled, said she'd see what she could do. That was the last time she looked at me with anything close to warmth. I texted her the next day. No answer. Called voicemail. Third day? Same thing. The nurses said maybe she was busy. I tried to believe that. Then, on day 5, Nurse Teresa came into my room with a cardboard box in her hands. "Mr. Bennett," she said cautiously. "Yeah. Someone left this for you at the front desk." I saw Rufus's head poke out of the box, wagging weakly. He looked sick. His fur was patchy, eyes watery. "What the hell?" "She didn't stay," Teresa said. "Just said the dog was yours now and left." My throat tightened. "She what?" "And she left this," the nurse added, handing me a folded piece of paper. It was notebook paper, lined, torn from a spiral pad, in Janelle's handwriting, for words, "You're too weak to be a man." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't even feel mad at first. It was like my brain didn't know what to do with the information. I just kept thinking, why would she leave Rufus here? Why would she say that? Then it hit me. She wasn't coming back. She wasn't just mad or overwhelmed. She was done. And that wasn't even the worst part. Next morning, around 11, I had a visitor. A guy walked into my hospital room without knocking, leash in hand. He looked maybe early 40s. Tall, too skinny, like he lived off coffee and spite. He had this arrogant smirk that made you want to punch him just to wipe it off. "Hey there, champ," he said. "Who the hell are you?" He leaned casually against the doorframe. "I'm Lance. You might say I'm Janelle's new man." I stared at him, trying to process what he just said. "She didn't tell you," he added, amused. "Oof. Tough break." He held up the leash and chuckled. "She says you can keep the dog. He's our mistake anyway." I sat there, heart monitor beeping steadily, blood pressure rising. "You really walked in here with a leash to tell me that?" I thought it'd be poetic. I gave him a slow smile. "Good. I'm keeping the house too." His face twitched. "Excuse me. You heard me. You and Janelle want to go play house. Go do it somewhere else. I already changed the locks." He blinked. The smirk wavered. "You can't do that." "Funny. I already did." I pressed the call button on the bedside panel. "Security should be here in about 20 seconds, I said. "You can leave on your own or let them help you." He laughed once, short and dry, then muttered something about calling Janelle. The door opened, and 2 security guys stepped in. He tried to puff his chest, but ended up leaving in a hurry. The leash was still dangling in his hand. The room was quiet after that. Just me and Rufus and the sound of my pulse monitor. I should have felt vindicated. I didn't. I just felt empty. When I finally got discharged, I came home to a half-empty closet and silence. She took her clothes, her toiletries, her favorite coffee mug. She also took the microwave for some reason. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a crime scene. Rufus was in bad shape too. Took him to the vet. He had an untreated skin infection and was dehydrated. Janelle must have been ignoring him for weeks. Bastard was limping worse than usual, but the vet gave me some meds and said he'd be okay. I spent the next few days piecing things together. Found credit card charges for motels in Buffalo, jewelry stores in Syracuse. Saw emails on the home computer. She'd forgotten to log out of her Gmail. Pictures of her and Lance at a cabin somewhere. Kissing in a hot tub. Laughing in bed. First timestamp was from 2019. For years. She'd been lying to me for 4 damn years. I called Anita, my cousin's wife. She's a divorce attorney out in Albany. I told her everything. She didn't ask if I was sure. She just said, "I've seen this before. I'll help you." And she did. I filed for divorce on the grounds of abandonment and infidelity. I kept all the emails, photos, bank records. We subpoenaed the motel bills. Janelle tried to stall, but once she realized I wasn't backing down, she got quiet. I didn't yell. I didn't THR-8. I just stayed calm and let my lawyer do the talking. But I wasn't calm inside. Not by a long shot. I'd built my whole adult life around this woman. And in the blink of an eye, she made me feel like I didn't matter. Like I was disposable. And now, I had to learn how to live without her. The hardest part wasn't the paperwork. It wasn't the legal back and forth, or even seeing her name printed next to words like defendant. It was the silence. You live with someone for over 2 decades, you get used to the little noises. The thump of their heels on the floor, the sigh when they sit down, the clinking of dishes after dinner. After she left, it was just Rufus and me. The house got real quiet. I'd walk from room to room just to remind myself I wasn't dead yet. Sometimes I'd find little remnants of her. A bobby pin under the bathroom sink. One of her scarves in the closet. Her old perfume bottle sitting on the dresser like it was waiting for her to come back. I threw out what I could. The rest just lingered. I tried not to dwell, but I'd catch myself standing at the kitchen counter, coffee going cold in my hand, wondering how I missed it. How did I not see that she was pulling away? That she was already somewhere else? Mentally, emotionally, and apparently physically with a guy named Lance who wore skinny jeans and drove a leased Lexus. And then there was Rufus. Poor guy wouldn't eat for days. He'd just lie next to the front door like he was waiting for her. I swear, it broke me more than anything else. She didn't just walk out on me. She walked out on him, too. And he loved her. Dogs love unconditionally. That's the problem. They don't see betrayal coming. The vet visits became routine. Twice a week for the infection, then again for arthritis meds. I got to know the techs by name. One of them, Kara, was sweet. Early 30s, glasses, always wore scrubs with cartoon animals on them. She told me once, "He's a lucky dog, you know." A lot of people would have given up on him. I didn't know how to respond. I think I just nodded. "You look tired," she added. "You taking care of yourself too?" I wanted to laugh. Taking care of myself? I just had a heart attack. My wife ran off with some guy who looked like he vapes for a living, and my dog was falling apart. But I smiled and said, "Trying." She smiled back. "That's enough, sometimes." I left the clinic that day and sat in the truck for 20 minutes before I could drive home. Christmas came fast that year. I didn't bother putting up lights. No tree. No cards. No dinner plans. I bought myself a bottle of scotch and microwaved a turkey dinner from Wegmans. Rufus got extra gravy. We watched It's a Wonderful Life together. I almost turned it off halfway through, but something about George Bailey's misery made me feel a little less alone. Around New Year's, I got a call from a guy named Ron, mutual friend of ours. Said he ran into Janelle at a local pub with Lance. Apparently, they looked like hell. She'd lost weight. He said she was drinking vodka sodas and crying in the bathroom. Lance looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. She asked about me? I asked. Ron hesitated. She said something about missing Rufus. That you were probably poisoning him against her. I actually laughed. First real laugh in months. Tell her he still sleeps by the door, I said. But it ain't for her anymore. January was cold, unforgiving. That upstate kind of cold that chews through gloves and seeps into your bones. The kind that makes every step to the truck feel like a chore. I shoveled snow every damn day like it was penance. One night, just after a snowstorm, I heard a knock on the front door. Thought it might be Ron again, or maybe Kara dropping off some new meds for Rufus. But when I opened it, it was her. Janelle. She stood there in a pea coat and jeans, cheeks red from the wind. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Not the woman I'd lived with. Someone more raw, more worn. "Hi," she said. I didn't move. "You lost." No, I looked at her. She looked smaller somehow. Not just physically, like her presence had shrunk. "You shouldn't be here," I said. "I just wanted to talk." "Too late for that." "I miss him," she said quietly. "Rufus. You miss him?" "I miss you too," she added, barely audible. I stepped out onto the porch, pulled the door halfway, closed behind me. "You left a note that said I was too weak to be a man. Then you dumped your sick dog at a hospital." She swallowed hard, looked away. I wasn't in a good place. Neither was I. I was in a hospital bed. I panicked. "No, Janelle. You planned. Motel receipts don't just appear." That wasn't panic. That was years. She blinked. Her eyes welled up. but I didn't feel sorry. I made a mistake, she whispered. I let that hang there. Rufus barked from inside, a slow, low sound like he knew who was out there. I'm not here to beg, she said. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. That makes two of us, I muttered. I can't go back to Lance. He's not who I thought he was. Neither were you. She winced, and for a second, I almost caved. I almost invited her in. Made coffee. Let her sit on the old couch and cry it out. But then I remembered the hospital bed. The dog in the box. The note. I'm sorry, Dale, she said, wiping her eyes. I'm not ready for forgiveness, I said, voice steady. And I'm not interested in being your backup plan. She stood there a moment longer, like she expected me to change my mind. I didn't. I stepped back inside and closed the door gently. Rufus sat by the stairs, tail wagging like nothing had happened. I gave him a pat, sat down next to him, and waited until I couldn't hear her car anymore. After that night on the porch, I didn't hear from Janelle again for a while. A long while. I think she got the message. Winter dragged on, cold and bitter. I kept to my routines. Work, vet visits, cooking for one. I started walking more, doctor's orders, and honestly, I needed to clear my head. Rufus wasn't up for long hikes anymore, but he'd waddle along for a few blocks before tapping out. He had this little fleece-lined jacket Cara from the vet clinic gave him, gray with a red trim. Made him look like a grumpy elf. I started going to this coffee shop near the school, Steeple Brew, one of those cozy, independent joints that always smells like cinnamon and old books. I'd sit in the corner by the window with a mug and a toasted bagel, and just watch people. Couples, students, old men playing chess, single moms with strollers. Life didn't stop moving just because mine had. One morning, I was sitting there when someone slid into the chair across from me. Hope this seat's not taken, she said. It was Marianne. We'd known each other back in high school, but hadn't spoken in years. She'd married, moved to Syracuse, raised two boys, then divorced 5 years back and moved back to Rochester to help care for her aging mom. We made small talk at first, safe stuff. Work, weather, what happened to old classmates. But then she paused, looked at me for a second too long, and said, I heard about you and Janelle. Yeah, I said, not sure where to go with that. People always assume a long marriage means a strong one, she said, stirring her tea. But sometimes it just means you got good at ignoring each other. That hit me harder than I expected. Guess we both got some practice, I said. She laughed. I was married to a guy who thought intimacy meant sharing a Netflix password. From there, we started meeting up once or twice a week. Not dating, not really. Just two people who knew what disappointment felt like and didn't feel like pretending it didn't matter. Some nights, after dinner, she'd call just to talk. I'd walk around the block with Rufus, phone to my ear, listening to her tell stories about her boys, her job, her neighbor's obnoxious rooster. I found myself laughing again. Not out of politeness, but real, belly-deep laughter. The kind I hadn't heard from myself in years. One night in late February, she invited me over for dinner. Chicken casserole, roasted carrots, and some cheap wine in mismatched glasses. Hope you're not allergic to cats, she said as we sat down. Walter gets offended if people don't acknowledge him. Walter. I looked around. He hiding? No, he's just dramatic. He likes to make an entrance. As if on cue, a chubby gray tabby strutted into the room like royalty and jumped up onto a nearby chair, staring me down like I owed him rent. Nice to meet you, Your Highness, I said. She laughed. You're doing better than my last date. He tried to pet him too soon and got a paw to the face. Smart cat, I said, smiling. After dinner, she put on a record, actual vinyl, and we just sat on the couch, music filling the silence like warm air. It wasn't romantic in the classic sense, but it felt right. Like two people sitting in the same quiet without needing to fix it. When I left that night, she walked me to the door and said, You're not as broken as you think you are, Dale. And for the first time since the heart attack, since the note, since the leash, I actually believed her. But just when I started thinking the storm had passed, another wave came crashing. Early March, I got a letter from Janelle's lawyer. She was contesting the divorce settlement. Claimed she'd been coerced into signing under emotional duress. Said she had a right to half the house after sacrificing years of her life to the marriage. I took the letter straight to Anita. She wants a fight now? I asked, shoving it across her desk. Anita skimmed it, brow furrowed. She's desperate. Her relationship probably tanked, and she wants security. You're the safety net now. She's not getting the house, I said firmly. She's going to try. So we went back to court. And this time, it got ugly. Her lawyer painted me as emotionally unstable. Said the heart attack made me erratic. Tried to argue that I wasn't mentally sound when I filed. That I'd manipulated Janelle during a fragile time. She even tried to drag Rufus into it, saying I wasn't capable of taking care of a sick dog, let alone a property. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. I just sat there, hands folded, watching Janelle avoid eye contact like I was some stranger who bumped her in the grocery store. When it was my turn to speak, Anita stood beside me and handed the judge a folder. Emails, receipts, photos. Vet records. Even a written statement from Kara at the clinic confirming I'd been the sole caretaker of Rufus since he was dropped off, neglected and untreated. At a hospital, no less. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't lash out. Just told the truth. About how I came home to an empty closet and a sick dog. About the note. The visit from Lance. The night on the porch. The judge didn't say much. Just nodded. Looked through the file. And said a final ruling would be issued in a few weeks. Outside the courtroom, Janelle tried to catch up with me. Dale, wait. I kept walking. I didn't want it to go like this, she said. I turned, slow. You left a note that said I was too weak to be a man. That's how you wanted it to go. She opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded like she finally understood the weight of what she'd done. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't apologize because you lost, I said. Apologize because you mean it. And if you don't say it at all. Then I walked to my truck, Rufus waiting in the passenger seat, wagging his tail like the world hadn't just cracked open again. I scratched behind his ears, started the engine, and drove. I didn't look back. The ruling came down 2.5 weeks later. The judge denied her request to alter the agreement. The house was mine. The truck was mine. All joint debts would be divided evenly, and she was ordered to pay her own legal fees. No alimony. No second chances. I read the letter twice, then set it on the kitchen counter, stared at it a while. I thought I'd feel something. Relief, victory, peace. But honestly, I just felt tired. Like someone had been pushing on my chest for 6 months and finally stepped back, and all I could do was sit there and relearn how to breathe. Rufus wandered in, dropped his stuffed giraffe at my feet. I picked it up, tossed it lightly across the living room. He hobbled after it, tail wagging like he was 10 years younger. Damn dog had more bounce back than I did. That night, I made steak and potatoes, first decent meal I'd cooked in months. Poured myself a glass of red wine. Not the cheap box stuff. Something decent. Sat at the table and toasted to nothing, really. Just to still being here. The next day, Marian called. Said she was going to an art fair downtown and asked if I wanted to tag along. I hesitated. Not really my thing, I said. Good, she replied. That's why you should go. We met at a parking garage on East Main and walked down to the Riverway. Booths lined the street. Paintings, jewelry, woodwork. Some overpriced abstract stuff, but also some surprisingly good pieces. There was a guy who made sculptures out of scrap metal, and I stood staring at one of a dog with a bone in its mouth for longer than I should have. Marian noticed. Looks like Rufus, she said. He wouldn't sit still long enough for a portrait, I muttered. She smiled and nudged me. Buy it. I snorted. I don't need a $200 piece of scrap metal. But do you want it? I looked at the sculpture again. It had a rough, weathered look, like it had survived 100 storms and was still standing, tail high. Yeah, I wanted it. I bought it. She drove us to a diner after, an old-school place that still had jukeboxes on the tables and served milkshakes in those tall silver cups. We split a grilled cheese and fries like a couple of teenagers. Dale, she said after the waitress walked off, can I ask you something? Sure. If she came back, really came back, like, with regret in her bones, would you take her? I didn't answer right away. Took a sip of my coffee. Watched the steam rise. No, I said finally. Not because I hate her. I don't. Not anymore. But because I can't live in the past. That life we had, it's gone. She torched it. Marian didn't say anything for a second. Just nodded. Good answer. The next few weeks were quiet. Simple. Predictable. And I needed that. I started volunteering once a week at the VFW hall. Helping set up for events, fixing broken chairs, unclogging a sink every now and then. Bunch of old-timers with stories you couldn't make up if you tried. One guy, Jerry, swore he once drank moonshine with Willie Nelson. Another, Tom, brought his harmonica everywhere and played it any time someone paused for more than 2 seconds. They didn't ask about Janelle. They didn't ask about the heart attack. They just said, glad you're here, and handed me a wrench or a plate of cookies. I needed that, too. One Saturday morning, I was fixing a flickering light fixture in the hall when Anita called. She rarely did unless it was legal business, so I picked up with a little hesitation. Hey, I said. You sitting down? No, but I can be. Janelle's lawyer called. Said she's selling the house she moved into with Lance. I sat down on the edge of the stage. Okay, she's moving. Far. Somewhere out west, Colorado maybe. Wants to start over. I didn't say anything. She's leaving town, Dale. Good for her, I finally muttered. You okay? Yeah, I guess I thought I'd feel something again. Maybe you already felt it, she said. Maybe now you're just done feeling it. I hung up, went back to the light fixture, and finished the job in silence. About a week later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. Just my name on the front, Dale Bennett. Inside was a letter. Not typed. Not angry. Just human. It was from Janelle. She said she wasn't writing to win me back. She knew that door was closed. Said she'd lost herself long before she ever left me. That she mistook comfort for boredom and Lance for excitement. That she didn't even like who she was when she was with him. Said she wasn't looking for forgiveness, just wanted to say she understood now how deep the damage was. She mentioned Rufus. Asked if he was okay. Said she missed his ears. There was a photo tucked in the envelope. Us in front of the fireplace, maybe 10 years ago. Rufus in her lap. Me holding a mug, mid-laugh. She wrote, I don't regret our years. I regret how I ended them. I didn't write back. Still haven't. Maybe I won't. But I didn't throw the letter away. I tucked it in a drawer next to the deed to the house and Rufus's vet records. Not because I'm holding on. Because some things don't need to be forgotten. They just need to be finished. Spring came late that year. Rochester always takes its time warming up, but by late April, the trees finally started to bloom again. My backyard, once quiet and cold, was coming back to life, slowly but surely. I spent a few weekends clearing old leaves, trimming hedges, patching up the back deck. Work I used to avoid, now I did gladly. There was something comforting in it. A kind of ownership. I wasn't fixing up a house anymore. I was rebuilding my home. Rufus still had his bad days. His joints creaked, and he sometimes whined getting upstairs, but his spirit hadn't dimmed. He still greeted me at the door every day like I was the best thing that ever happened to him. I guess, in his eyes, I probably was. One morning in May, I got a call from Marianne. You remember how I said I'd never step foot at the North Point Country Club again? She asked. Vaguely. Well, I lied. What happened? I just saw Janelle. I paused. Excuse me. She was there? With some real estate guy. Apparently, she's trying to pitch this whole reinvention thing, selling herself as a speaker for women who want to start over after divorce. I waited, eyebrows raised, not sure where this was going. She's calling herself a transformation coach, Dale. I blinked. Hey, what? Exactly. There was a flyer on the table. She's launching a website, hosting some event next month at the Civic Center. I let out a low whistle. So she went from accountant to adulterer to guru. Pretty much. I didn't feel angry. Not exactly. It was more surreal. Like I was watching a character in a soap opera unravel in real time. I thanked Marianne for the heads up, then hung up and looked out at my yard. Rufus was sunbathing on the porch. Birds chirped. Life went on. But I started thinking. A few days later, I reached out to an old buddy, Paul, who ran a digital marketing company out of Syracuse. Smart guy. Used to play in a garage band with me back in '95. I told him I had an idea. A little petty, maybe, but not malicious. You ever do SEO sabotage? I asked him over a beer. He grinned. I have been known to do some strategic optimization. I told him about the transformation coach thing. The website, the rebrand. Told him I didn't want to ruin her life. I just wanted to shine a big, bright flashlight on the truth. I'm not looking to burn her down, I said. Just make sure nobody thinks she's some inspirational phoenix when she's really just a pile of matches. He nodded. Say no more. Within 2 weeks, every time someone Googled her full name and transformation coach, a few interesting things popped up first. A Reddit post detailing her note to her recovering husband. You're too weak to be a man. A link to public divorce records filed for abandonment and infidelity. A blog article titled, When Reinvention is Just Rebranding Bad Behavior. All true. All public. Nothing illegal. Just organized. She never knew I did it. Maybe she still doesn't. But within a month, her event was canceled due to scheduling issues. Her website quietly went offline. Her Instagram account, once full of hashtags like #FreshStart and #StrongWomenRise, went private. And I felt calm. Not giddy. Not spiteful. Just done. It wasn't revenge in the explosive, cinematic way. But it was justice. Clean. Quiet. Satisfying. Meanwhile, I kept showing up. For work. For Rufus. For my own damn life. Marianne and I got closer. Not rushed. Not messy. Just real. Some evenings we'd sit on her back patio, sipping iced tea and watching the sky turn gold. She talked about her kids. I talked about nothing in particular. And for once, that was enough. We even went away one weekend, just 2 hours out, to the Finger Lakes. Stayed at a little cabin, brought Rufus, walked by the water, drank wine out of tumblers. There was no big moment, no grand declarations. But when she reached across the table and held my hand, I didn't pull away. I'd earned that peace. One Sunday afternoon, I was in the garage tuning up my old guitar, hadn't touched it since before the heart attack, when Marianne peeked in. Still remember how to play? She asked. Barely. Play something. So I did. Something simple, soft. Just a melody I'd been humming in my head for a few weeks. Rufus lay nearby, one paw twitching in his sleep. When I finished, Marianne smiled. You've come a long way, Dale. I looked around, at the house I rebuilt, the dog I saved, the quiet I made peace with. Yeah, I said. And I'm just getting started. A few months later, summer settled into Rochester. The kind that brings in warm evenings, fireflies, and neighbors you forgot you had. I'd sit out on the porch most nights with Rufus, now slower but still kicking, watching the world soften under the orange dusk. The last official thread of the past was tied off one hot July afternoon when I got a final email from Janelle's lawyer. She was moving permanently. Colorado, just like Anita predicted. The email said she wanted no further contact and requested we close all remaining joint business. That was it. No forwarded address. No goodbye. I read it twice, then hit archive. Later that evening, I took out the photo she'd mailed with her apology letter, the one of us and Rufus in front of the fireplace. I looked at it for a long moment, then carefully tucked it into a small box I keep in the back of my closet. Inside that box, a hospital wristband, Rufus's first vet prescription, the flyer for Janelle's short-lived event, and now, the photo. Not trophies. Reminders. Not of pain, but of survival. That was the last I ever heard of her. She moved on, or didn't. Rebuilt, or didn't. I stopped wondering. I had enough of my own life to tend to. The house finally felt like mine. Every wall, every creak, every screw I'd tightened or replaced over the last year. I painted the spare room, turned it into a small music space, hung my old guitar on the wall, even bought a second one just because I could. Marion started spending weekends over more regularly. Nothing flashy, no announcements, just us, slow and steady, laughing over burnt toast or old movies. Sometimes we'd dance in the living room to those vinyl records she loved. Sometimes we'd just sit in silence with Rufus curled between us. One afternoon, we walked into Steeple Brew, our coffee spot, and the barista, a college kid with a nose ring and a messy bun, grinned at us. "You two are here a lot," she said. "Y'all married?" Marion laughed, shook her head. "Not yet." And I just smiled. Not yet. Not never. Because sometimes, revenge isn't fire and fury. Sometimes it's healing. It's rebuilding. It's looking in the mirror one day and realizing you've come back stronger, kinder, wiser, and that no one can take that from you. Not a betrayal. Not a note. Not even a heart attack. I didn't just survive it. I came out the other side better. Now, I've got a good dog, a warm house, a woman who actually sees me, and peace. The kind of peace you don't inherit. You earn. And you know what? That's enough. That's more than enough.